Bonjour, bienvenue à vous tous qui êtes ici. Merci d'avoir fait le déplacement pour assister à cet événement exceptionnel, puisque nous célébrons aujourd'hui à la fois un anniversaire, 2 ans, jour pour jour, après l'accord historique de Paris sur le climat, et incontestablement le début de quelque chose de nouveau, puisque l'heure maintenant est aux actions concrètes. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to all of you here today. Thank you for having made this journey for this exceptional event, as today we're celebrating both an anniversary, 2 years to the day from the historic Paris Climate Agreement, and undoubtedly the start of something new, since the time has come now for tangible actions. Nous en parlerons tout au long de cette journée, très riche, avec cet après-midi l'arrivée d'une 60aine de chefs d'État et de gouvernement venus spécialement marquer leur attachement à la lutte pour la planète et porteurs d'annonces concrètes contre le réchauffement et dans l'action, bien sûr, en faveur du climat. We'll be discussing these actions throughout this very intense day with the arrival this afternoon of some 60 heads of states and government coming specially to show their commitment to the fight for the planet and as messengers of concrete announcements on actions to combat global warming. D'abord, je voudrais réserver un accueil chaleureux aux 3 co-chairs this morning, aux 3 co-chairs de cette matinée. Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs, Rémi Rioux, International Development Finance Club President, and Kristalina Georgieva, CEO of the World Bank. Please give a warm welcome to these 3 co-chairs. Mais d'abord, première session de discussion. Nos intervenants vont s'installer dans un instant. Le temps de voir une brève présentation. La CFA, l'initiative pour la forêt de l'Afrique centrale en lutte contre la déforestation. Our panelists will join us in a minute here on stage. The time for you to watch this short video on tackling deforestation by CAFI, the Central Africa Forest Initiative.
L'Afrique centrale abrite le second bassin forestier tropical au monde. Cette forêt s'étend sur 2,5 millions de kilomètres carrés, un territoire aussi vaste que l'Europe occidentale. Cette forêt est un poumon, dont chaque racine, chaque branche, chaque feuille absorbe le carbone que nous émettons. Et c'est pourquoi cette forêt apporte une contribution inestimable à la lutte contre les changements climatiques. Sans la forêt d'Afrique centrale, nous ne pourrons pas atteindre les objectifs climat que nous nous sommes tous fixés à Paris. Or, cette forêt disparaît à un rythme accéléré. Chaque année, ce sont plus d'1 million d'hectares qui disparaissent. Chaque heure, l'équivalent de 2 terrains de football. Les gouvernements d'Afrique centrale se trouvent à la croisée des chemins. Doivent-ils autoriser, voire encourager la destruction de ces forêts pour sortir leur population de la pauvreté et profiter de débouchés lucratifs sur le court terme? Doivent-ils répéter ce qui a été fait par le reste du monde dans le passé? Ou doivent-ils laisser cette forêt intacte, sachant que cela peut contraindre le potentiel de croissance?
Alors après les engagements, quels instruments pour tenir la promesse faite ici même à Paris il y a 2 ans, à la fois permettre à la transition vers une économie décarbonée et mobiliser les financements vers les projets d'adaptation au dérèglement climatique? Quel rôle et quel cadre concret pour la finance publique? After the promises, what are the instruments to meet those commitments made here in Paris 2 years ago to allow the transition to a decarbonized economy and at the same time mobilize financing towards projects for adapting to climate disruption? What can be the role and the operational framework for public finance? This is the scope of the first panel of the day. C'est l'objet du premier panel de la journée. J'appelle tout de suite à me rejoindre Jean-Yves Le Drian, ministre de l'Europe et des Affaires étrangères pour la France. Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs for France. Thank you, Minister. J'appelle également à me rejoindre le président de la COP23, Premier ministre de la République de Fiji, Franck Bainimarama. COP23 President, Prime Minister of the Republic of Fiji, Frank Bainimarama. Please take a seat. Thank you. J'appelle à présent le ministre des Affaires étrangères du Japon, Japan, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Taro Kono. Please take a seat. La secrétaire exécutive pour la Commission cadre des Nations Unies sur le changement climatique, Executive Secretary for UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Ms. Patricia Espinosa. Please have a seat. Le commissaire européen au climat et à l'énergie, EU Commissioner for Energy and Climate, Mr. Miguel Cañete. Please have a seat. Right here, over there, right in front of this microphone. Thank you. Monsieur le ministre, en 2015, 195 États plus l'Union européenne ont pris des engagements ici même lors de l'adoption de l'accord de Paris. 2 ans plus tard, alors que nous célébrons aujourd'hui le 2e anniversaire de cet accord, où en est-on? Quelles suites ont été données à ces engagements? Back in 2015, 195 nations and the European Union made commitments here in Paris, and the Paris Agreement. Have they lived up to those commitments 2 years on, Minister?
Monsieur le Premier ministre, Madame et Messieurs les ministres, Monsieur le Commissaire, depuis 2 ans, la mobilisation n'a pas décru. Et aujourd'hui, vous le savez, il y a 170 États qui ont ratifié l'accord de Paris. Cela représente 87% des émissions mondiales de gaz à effet de serre. C'est essentiel. Et puis par ailleurs, l'objectif qui nous rassemble aujourd'hui, c'est de répondre par des solutions concrètes, par des solutions efficaces à l'enjeu que représente le financement pour le climat. Les travaux que nous engageons aujourd'hui visent à crédibiliser notre action et à opérer sur le terrain le changement d'échelle indispensable. Alors, il y a beaucoup d'éléments qui ont été mis en œuvre depuis 2 ans, en particulier les éléments financiers. Je voudrais rappeler que l'objectif que nous sommes fixés de 100 milliards de dollars de financement public et privé d'ici 2020 est en œuvre, est en mouvement. Je pense en particulier au Fonds vert pour le climat. La France y contribue à sa hauteur et le Fonds vert, comme d'autres fonds, alimente des projets concrets en nombre croissant. Et je voudrais citer 4 exemples très concrets de l'agenda de l'action qui constitue l'un des piliers de la COP 21 et qui a été repris par la COP 23 sous la présidence fidjienne. D'abord, l'initiative Cruise, avec un certain nombre de pays, pour renforcer les systèmes d'alerte au bénéfice des populations des pays les plus vulnérables face aux événements extrêmes. Ce mouvement est en cours avec 40 pays et un investissement de 100 millions de dollars d'ici 2020. Deuxième exemple, l'érosion des sols, car sans action sur les sols, et en particulier les sols dégradés, nos chances de rester en dessous des 2 degrés sont quasiment nulles. Et là, sous l'impulsion de l'Agence française de développement, sous l'impulsion de Monique Barbu, la France va s'engager à hauteur de 30 millions d'euros dans le Fonds pour la neutralité en matière de dégradation des terres, le fonds LDN, qui est géré par Mirova, filiale du groupe Natixis, qui montre qu'il y a un bon croisement de l'investissement public et de l'investissement privé. Troisième exemple, l'érosion côtière, qui a mobilisé singulièrement la Banque mondiale, singulièrement aussi mon pays, avec le programme dédié à ce sujet qui s'appelle le programme WACA. Et notre mobilisation est cruciale, en particulier sur certaines situations. Je pense en particulier à la situation de Saint-Louis du Sénégal. Et je plaide aux côtés de la directrice générale de la Banque mondiale pour qu'un soutien spécifique et exemplaire, un soutien d'ampleur soit mis en œuvre pour Saint-Louis, qui sera peut-être la référence de la plateforme WACA. Et enfin, je pense aussi à l'initiative africaine pour les énergies renouvelables, l'AREI, que nous appuyons résolument. Et il importe que les projets qui sont initiés par l'AREI puissent aboutir. Ils sont déjà au nombre de 19, avec une production totale attendue de près de 2 gigawatts pour un total de 4 milliards d'euros d'investissement. Plusieurs programmes sont en attente pour début 2018. Il faut les faire progresser. Vous le voyez, l'engagement des uns et des autres depuis 2015 est significatif et cette journée doit poursuivre la mobilisation collective, la mobilisation innovante et solidaire au service des financements croisés pour atteindre les objectifs que nous nous sommes donnés. Voilà une partie de la réponse, Monsieur l'animateur.
Merci, Monsieur le ministre.
Merci.
Si vous voulez bien vous asseoir. Let me now give the floor to the President of the 23rd Annual Conference of the Parties, Prime Minister Benny Marama of the Republic of Fiji.
Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Bula Vinaka, bonjour, and a very good morning to you all. I'm delighted to be here in Paris for this landmark One Planet Summit, marking the second anniversary of the historic Paris Agreement, and just 3 weeks after the conclusion of COP23. Your Excellencies, I want to briefly convey my assessment as COP President of the challenge we face to rapidly scale up global finance to confront the crisis of climate change. While the challenge is great, we must do everything in our power to meet it. We know it is the difference between life and death for millions of vulnerable people around the world. It will impact every country, rich or poor. So this is an important milestone in our fight to preserve and also improve the quality of human life as we know it on our one planet. At COP23, I was encouraged by the focus, commitment, and energy the world displayed to meet this challenge. I was especially struck and at times moved by the enthusiasm in the Bonn zone, where national governments were joined by local and regional governments, the civil society, and the private sector, stakeholders from all over the world. This is where our concept of a grand coalition for decisive climate action really came to life. And we must do everything we can here in Paris on this important anniversary to build on the momentum we saw in Bonn, to harness that spirit of determination and sense of opportunity to make our planet more sustainable and more prosperous. Excellencies, if there's one thing we all know, it is that global financial markets respond to opportunity. And it is our job to seize this moment to accelerate the profound shift that is already taking place in global investment, away from the dirty economies of the past towards the newer, better, smarter, cleaner economies of the future. As COP23 President, Fiji is working hard to promote our grand coalition and deliver on the promise of Paris. As I keep stressing, we are all in the same canoe. We are all vulnerable, and we all need to act. And as President Macron had said, there is no planet B. We have only one planet to call home, and now is the time to move forward together to save it. So friends, in the short time I have today, I would like to make 4 key points. First, we need better access to the public finance that is being mobilized through formal mechanisms of the UNFCCC, including the Green Climate Fund. The financial pledges made need to flow faster through a less bureaucratic and more streamlined system and make a real difference to the world on the ground. Second, we must recognize the essential role of private finance and bring together both public and private climate finance. There are trillions of dollars sitting with private investment institutions, the pension funds, investment banks, and insurance companies. And they are all looking for opportunities to earn a return on these funds. We must unlock that finance for our common cause. We must encourage them to accelerate the trend towards investments that contribute to solving the climate crisis. While there has been encouraging progress to date, the private finance that has supported the climate solution has been largely at the project level and not broader institutional investment. We need to think about how to build the new asset classes that institutional investors can invest in at scale. Third, and number three, public and private finance is moving away from fossil fuels towards climate-smart investment opportunities. That is an important trend, and it is evolving very rapidly. We saw at COP23 the work of the Global Alliance to power past coal. But we need to ensure that as the global financial community moves away from dirty investments, it has viable and scalable green alternatives into which the money can flow. And these alternatives need to be robust and reflect the level of risk and expectation on future returns that the system demands. After all, when we talk about tapping into the vast amounts of institutional capital for climate solutions, we are largely talking about the retirement savings of ordinary, hard-working citizens. And we need to honor the expectation of being good stewards with their money. Number four, governments and the private sector must work together like never before with a sense of urgency and caution to unlock the trillions of dollars of private sector capital that can be mobilized to solve this challenge. The major financial markets of the world, New York, London, Paris, Berlin, Zurich, Tokyo, and others, have the capacity and all the players needed to direct more than enough capital towards this problem. The governments of the major economies of the world must act in concert with these markets to make it happen. For their part, these governments can create the regulatory environment and financial incentives for public and private capital to flow towards implementing climate solutions, and specifically towards implementing more ambitious country NDCs under the Paris Agreement. The major economy, governments, and larger public institutions can also play a critical role in scaling up private sector climate finance by helping to reduce the risk of such investments. Your Excellencies, we need to ensure that all nations, especially developing countries, have in place the necessary laws, governance, and investment policies to encourage private investment to flow in a way that finances NDC implementation and adaptation. For a start, we need to complement the implementation guidelines of the Paris Agreement on time. And I'm encouraged by and thankful for the progress made at COP23 towards that end. And we look forward to working with our Polish friends for a successful COP24. We also need 21st century policies to reflect the 21st century economy. We need to rethink current subsidies, tax policies, and how we price risk in the markets. And this must all be updated and upgraded. We need to use public finance to remove the barriers to entry for the private sector and reduce the private cost of financing climate investments. Governments can co-fund activities with a willingness to take a lower concessional rate of return. And as I mentioned earlier, governments and public institutions can help to de-risk investments by providing financial guarantees, first loss facilities, or credit rating support. I'm sure there are good ideas that will be discussed at the summit, Your Excellencies, and are being tested in boardrooms and classrooms around the world. We need to listen as much as we talk. I want to close by stressing that money and capital is not the challenge we face. We have sufficient financial resources in the world to transform our economies, reduce global emissions, enhance resource productivity, build more resilient infrastructure, protect forests, and regenerate degraded land. What we lack, Your Excellency, is the right incentives, the right policies, and investment environments for investors to redeploy their private capital. Excellencies, this is our challenge, and we must put our global financial system on the correct course to meet it. So let us all embrace with purpose the transformation we must make so that climate finance is available to reduce harm and increase the prosperity and security of those who need it most. One planet, one future. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime Minister. And as I'm asking the second question to Minister Kono, may I ask Executive Secretary Espinosa just to switch seats just to come over here because it seems we have a slightly less crowded first panel than initially thought. Thank you very much, just to have a more balanced view. Thank you so much. Minister Kono, can you please talk us through the main financing decisions made by Japan? Thank you very much. Made by Japan since 2015, notably concerning the Green Climate Fund, and also what type of projects have been made possible through public finance. Quelles sont les principales décisions prises par le Japon en matière de financement depuis 2015, notamment s'agissant du Fonds vert pour le climat, et quel type de projets ont-ils été rendus publics par la finance publique?
Thank you. Good morning. All policy measures must be mobilized to scale up the climate finance. We have to put all hands on deck for the fight against the climate change. Japan will lead the world in the climate finance not only through financial mechanism, but also through its advanced technology and innovation. I will highlight 3 approaches effective for scaling up climate finance based on Japan's initiative and its collaboration with other countries and entities. First, we governments must forge a stronger partnership with financial markets, investors, and companies. In Japan, GPIF, the world's largest pension fund, is spearheading efforts to promote ESG-focused investment. Many companies have started up to align their management policy with the 2 degrees Celsius target under the Paris Agreement, supporting science-based target. 14 Japanese companies are already approved by SBT, science-based target, and the government is supporting further registration. We aim for 100 companies to be approved by March 2020, in time for the Tokyo Olympic Games. In addition, the Tokyo Stock Exchange launched its infrastructure fund market in 2015, specialized in financing renewable energy, and 4 funds have already been created. Collaboration with international financial organizations is also a key. As a leading contributor to the Green Climate Fund, Japan strongly supports the adoption of GCF project with particular focus on the Pacific Island countries vulnerable to climate change. The government has already hosted a number of business dialogue between GCF and the private sector and will expand such cooperative network. The second effective approach is to enhance the resilience of countries, cities, regions through addressing climate fragility risks. Better understanding of the climate impact on social economy is critical for building resilient social infrastructure. Together with France and other G7 members, Japan contributes to G7 decision on climate change and fragility. We present a report on the impact of climate change on natural disasters and social economy in Asia-Pacific at G7 and COP23. Japan will hold an international conference in 2018 to further examine this issue. Third, we must be more creative in connecting science and innovation to climate business. Science is crucial for taking robust climate actions, repelling any skeptic views on the climate change. But we have to do more and better. Advanced technology and innovation can play a critical role in creating business and scaling up climate finance and investment opportunities. In this regard, Japan supports CREW for its early warning systems related to climate risks. Japan will expand its cooperation with the CREW by joining its project on disaster management in the Pacific and through financial support. These efforts will connect scientific findings to various adaptation efforts so as to create resilient economy and achieve sustainable development objectives. To reinforce such scientific endeavors for climate action, Japan will launch 2 observation satellites, GCOM-C on climate change on December 23rd, and GOSAT on greenhouse gases in fiscal year 2018. Japan also leads the world in hydrogen energy technology. The 2020 Tokyo Olympics will be a showcase for hydrogen society and present a vision for sustainable society towards the subsequent Paris Olympics. Toyota's fuel cell vehicle, Mirai, is cruising not only on the streets of Tokyo, but also at the COP23 in Bonn. 40,000 Mirai will be introduced, and approximately 160 hydrogen refueling stations will be built by 2020. We will build an international hydrogen supply chain with cooperation of countries like Brunei and Australia. Advanced technologies are not limited to developed countries as means for creating investment opportunities. In Mozambique, biofuel production technology funded by Japan's Startups R&D program contributes to the CO2 reduction and industry creation. The Jatrofa biofuel technology introduced by Japanese universities not only brought electricity, but also created local logistics and e-banking business in the region. Lastly, but not least importantly, long-term vision aligned with the Paris Agreement is critical for effectively scaling up climate finance. Japan is now preparing its long-term strategy that leads to economic growth. Through devising respective strategies, we all strive to tackle the global challenge of climate change, thus securing the future of our one and only planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Kono. Ms. Espinosa, what role does the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change play in the full implementation of the Paris Agreement? Quel rôle joue la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur les changements climatiques dans la mise en œuvre de l'accord de Paris?
Well, let me start by thanking and acknowledging the incredible leadership by the French government and in this case, this initiative by President Macron to convene this summit. You are really an amazing example for many countries around the world of how to make of climate change action a high priority, not only for the environmental part of government, but for government as a whole. Regarding the role of the Convention in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, well, actually, the Paris Agreement is like a son or a son and daughter from the Convention. It derives from a very long process of negotiation of over 20 years. And it adds to the regime that is defined by the Convention the fact that countries have put on the table specific goals in terms of reduction of emissions, in terms of actions to adapt to the effects of climate change, and in terms of providing support to countries, especially developed countries, providing support to developing countries in their efforts to address the issue of climate change. So it is one single regime that has different parts. One of them, the basic regime established by the Convention, and then on top of it, we have the Paris Agreement.
What did COP23 achieve to take us to implementing the Paris Agreement? What's the role of finance in this scenario?
Well, of course, our COP23 president has already made a very thorough and very accurate assessment of the results of COP23. I think that COP23 highlighted several important points. One of them is the fact that the Paris Agreement and the regime under the Convention remain the only way forward to address climate change. And I think what our conference in Bonn showed is that so many actors around the world in different areas of the economy, in different sectors of society, in all countries of the world, are aligning their actions and their ambitions toward the Paris Agreement. And the fact that this summit is convening around the Paris Agreement, around the goals of the Paris Agreement, also shows how much the financial sector is aligning toward the goals established by the Paris Agreement. In Bonn, therefore, it was very important that we consolidated the vision that this transformation that the Paris Agreement sets the stage for will not be delivered unless everyone in our societies, in our economies, take part. So we made a big progress in that regard. We also made progress in the negotiations, in putting the scene for this year's very intense negotiations on the Paris Agreement work program. And also we made a good agreement on how to develop what is called the Talanoa dialogue, according to the spirit in the Pacific dialogue that is intended to make an assessment of where we stand right now and what we need to do in order to raise ambition and be able to have in 2020 much more ambitious nationally determined contributions.
Thank you. Thank you, Executive Secretary. Commissioner Cañete. Thank you. After COP23, the African Union, European Union summit in Abidjan that was about 3 weeks ago, the European Commission unveiled its external investment plan for Africa. Does it create new opportunities for sustainable development?
For sure, but d'abord, j'aimerais saisir cette occasion aussi pour remercier l'engagement exemplaire du gouvernement français dans la lutte contre le changement climatique et la transition écologique. Et ce sommet, c'est le moment opportun, pas aussi pour célébrer l'accord historique qui est adopté à la conférence de Paris, mais aussi c'est une opportunité pour accélérer la mise en œuvre de l'accord de Paris et s'insérer l'échelle de la finance pour l'action climat. The European Union takes very seriously the commitments with developing countries. We are committed to fulfill our $100 billion commitment, and we have been steadily supporting developing countries. We were the biggest supporter of developing countries because development assistance from the European Union member states increased for the 4th consecutive year in 2016, reaching 75 billion euros, which is 60% of global total efforts. But also we are the largest contributors to climate finance for developing countries because our public climate finance grew to over 20 billion euros last year, which is half of the world's total, and it's an increase of 50% compared to 2015 and double compared to 2013. That shows that we have committed seriously after the Paris Agreement, increasing our climate public finance support. In the framework of these efforts, we have launched a very ambitious new external investment plan to support investment and strengthen public and private partnerships for development in partner countries in Africa and the European neighborhood. We do it by a contribution of 4 billion from the European Commission to the plan to leverage more than 44 billion of investments by 2020. And today, I would like to announce 3 new climate-relevant priority areas of investments, windows of investments, that are expected to generate approximately 9 billion euro in investments in total up to 2020. The first window will focus on sustainable energy and connectivity, and it will support investments in access to and generation of renewable energy, as well as sustainable and climate-friendly transport and logistic chains. The second window will focus on sustainable cities, mobilizing investments within the municipal infrastructure sector of sustainable urban planning, sustainable smart mobility, water, sanitation, waste management, renewable energy services and energy efficiency, and resilient infrastructure and buildings, including social housing. And the third window will focus on sustainable agriculture, rural entrepreneurs, and agribusiness. This new system of approaching support of climate finance has three pillars, because it not only has a new generation of financial instruments with guarantees, reselling instruments and blending of grants and loans, but it has a substantial pillar of technical assistance to support local authorities, micro, small and medium companies and cooperatives to define better projects. They have lots of difficulties to access to finance and they need technical assistance. And then we have to have also, in addition, an structured political and private sector dialogue with partner countries and other stakeholders to improve the investment climate and business environment. Because you have to have a friendly environment for investment, sophisticated new financial instruments adapted to the needs of developing countries, and lots of technical assistance and capacity building for developing countries to implement the NDCs. The success of Paris is what not only that many countries signed the Paris Agreement. The success is that they ratified and that they deliver and committed to implement NDCs. But it's extremely difficult on a technical level to implement NDCs, and it's very difficult for small, medium, and local companies to access to very big, sophisticated financial networks. We have to make tailor-made financial instruments, and that's why we have put in action our external investment plan, and that's why we are launching these three initiatives in the area of energy, cities, and agriculture.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Cañete. So this new initiative, 9 billion euros for sustainable energy and productivity, sustainable cities, and sustainable agriculture. Thank you very much, and thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Executive Secretary Patricia Espinosa for sharing her views, as well as Minister Taro Kono and Prime Minister of the Republic of Fiji, Frank Bainimarama. Thank you all, and thank you as well to French Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian for European and International Affairs. Thank you very much. If you can please stay here just for a minute. We'll switch. In a minute, we'll watch a new video. But first, a few transition words. La finance publique, on vient de le voir, un rôle essentiel à jouer pour préparer les politiques climat sur le long terme et transformer le système financier. Les banques et les agences de développement sont au cœur du processus en réorientant les flux financiers vers une économie bas carbone, compatible avec les ambitions de l'accord de Paris. De cela, on va parler dans un instant, juste après donc, ce court film consacré à l'agroécologie en Bolivie. As we've just seen, public financing that has a leading role to play in preparing long-term climate policies and in transforming the financial system. Banks and development agencies are at the heart of the process of reorienting financial flows towards a low-carbon economy compatible with the aims of the Paris Agreement. We'll talk about it in a minute, just after a short video on agroecology in Bolivia. That's now. Thank you.
Cambia. Igual no es tiempo de lluvia, no, antes cuando estábamos por sembrar era fuerte la lluvia, después que ha pasado ya helada también, totalmente ha cambiado el clima.
Y esta palanca, y desde el pozo va bombeando hasta al tanque.
Antes, cuando sembrábamos, no teníamos carpa. Hace en suelito fuera sembrábamos también lechuguita. Uno helada llega, todo sabe llevar, en vano. Ahora con ese carpa sembramos, siempre no perdemos con ese carpa, poquito nomás gotillo, sembramos.
Voilà, il est donc temps de passer à notre deuxième session, l'action climat, créer des opportunités et amplifier l'engagement public. It's now time for a second session on climate action, how to create opportunities and increase public engagement. Our first guest on this session is the co-chair of this panel this morning, Monsieur Rémi Rioux, the International Development Finance Club President. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Also is Assis Chenois, Special Representative on Climate Change Affairs for the National Development and Reform Commission of China. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Je salue également la présence d'Howard Bamsey. Howard Bamsey, the Green Climate Fund Executive Director. And finally, Akinwumi Adesina, African Development Bank President, président de la Banque africaine de développement. Rémi Rioux, vous avez négocié les aspects financiers de l'accord de Paris et sous la présidence française de la COP21. Quel est le mandat pour les banques de développement et en particulier pour le club que vous représentez après cet accord de Paris? Où en sont les banques de développement aujourd'hui? Ont-elles rempli leur mandat? You negotiated the finance issue of the Paris Agreement on behalf of the French presidency of COP21. What is the new mandate for development banks and IDFC in particular after this agreement? Where are they now? Have they fulfilled this mandate?
Bonjour à tous. Il y a 2 ans, jour pour jour, nous avons fait dans l'accord de Paris quelque chose de très particulier. On a mis la finance, les financements, comme l'un des 3 grands objectifs de la lutte contre le changement climatique, avec l'atténuation et avec l'adaptation. Donc la question de la finance n'est pas un moyen, c'est devenu à Paris il y a 2 ans une fin en soi. Et bien sûr, j'étais à Bercy hier pour le Finance Climate Day, ce qui est très rassurant. Beaucoup reste à faire, et le ministre l'a dit ce matin, ce qui est très rassurant, c'est que ce signal a été entendu. Il a été entendu fort et clair, et beaucoup de progrès sont en cours. Alors, vous l'avez dit, les banques de développement doivent être en première ligne de ce combat parce que nous sommes des instruments publics, nous sommes patients, nous sommes volontaires, nous pensons au long terme. Et je suis heureux aujourd'hui de pouvoir vous dire que nous prenons 4 initiatives à l'occasion de ce One Planet Summit. La première, vous la découvrirez à la mi-journée, nous nous sommes rassemblés, plus de 30 banques de développement, les plus grandes du monde, les banques multilatérales, les banques nationales et régionales, ça fait 5 000 milliards de bilans cumulés et nous allons faire une déclaration conjointe pour la première fois aujourd'hui pour ce sommet, pour dire que l'accord de Paris maintenant est notre boussole, c'est notre mandat, pour dire aussi que nous voulons mobiliser très activement le secteur privé, pour dire que nous voulons accélérer la bascule des énergies fossiles vers les énergies renouvelables. Le deuxième engagement, la deuxième initiative, c'est celui, vous l'avez dit, du club IDFC, que j'ai l'honneur de présider. Alors c'est le club cette fois des 23 plus grandes banques nationales et régionales, la Chine, la France, l'Allemagne, la Colombie, enfin 23 pays représentés. Et nous avons rendu public hier nos chiffres climat qui sont en forte augmentation. Ce club a financé en 2016 pour 160 milliards de dollars de projets comptant comme du climat, en augmentation de 30 milliards par rapport à l'année 2015 et plus encore par rapport à 2014 avant la COP21. La troisième initiative, le troisième engagement, c'est celui de l'Agence française de développement, à la demande du président de la République et du gouvernement. Jusqu'à présent, la marque de l'Agence française de développement, c'était 50% de nos projets avaient un co-bénéfice pour le climat, comme nous le comptons tous. Mais quand on dit ça, on se dit, mais et les 50 autres pourcents, vous avez le droit de faire tout ce que vous voulez, n'importe quoi. Je crois qu'il faut fixer pour nous tous une nouvelle frontière stratégique. Et nous la disons en nous engageant à être la première agence 100% accord de Paris. Donc 100% accord de Paris, ça ne veut pas dire 100% climat, ça veut dire que tous nos projets, la qualité de nos projets seront appréciés maintenant au regard des trajectoires de long terme que chaque pays, le ministre japonais vient de le dire, que chaque pays d'ici à 2020 doit définir. Et il faut bien sûr nous aligner complètement derrière et faire confiance au processus de l'accord de Paris. Je crois que c'est pour ça que nous sommes ici. Enfin, et on va créer un instrument à l'AFD qu'on appelle la facilité 2050 pour appuyer les pays, comme nous l'avons fait pour les NDC, dans la définition de ces stratégies. Enfin, dernière chose, le quatrième engagement, il faut bien sûr diffuser, mainstreaming, comme on dit, diffuser le plus largement possible vers l'ensemble des acteurs financiers, la prise en compte du risque climatique, les stratégies climatiques. On a fait un événement hier matin à Bercy, cette initiative qu'on a lancée à la COP aussi, Mainstreaming Financial Action within financial institutions. On a augmenté d'un tiers le nombre de nos membres. C'est maintenant 12 000 milliards de bilans sous gestion qui est concerné. Il faut bien sûr maintenant aller beaucoup plus loin, beaucoup plus vite encore.
Merci Rémi Rioux. Un certain nombre d'annonces donc pour ouvrir cette session. Akinwumi Adesina, the Paris Agreement has a sustainable development agreement, is a roadmap for all development banks across the world. How does this apply to Africa when the challenge of leveraging investment for low-carbon economy and low-carbon development whilst facing the adaptation challenge? How do you face both issues, both challenges?
Well, thanks very much. Let me say first and foremost that we cannot really succeed in terms of the Paris Agreement unless we succeed in Africa. That's actually the least emitter of greenhouse gases, but suffers most disproportionately from the negative impact of that. Now, as a bank, we have taken this very, very seriously. Over the last 5 years, we've put in $12 billion in terms of climate finance. When I came here, and Remy was talking about it for the Paris Agreement 2 years ago, at that time, the total share of our financing as a bank that was for climate finance was roughly just about 14% of our energy investments was in renewable energy. By last year, we've raised that to 70% of our total investments in energy is in renewable energy. By this year, 100% of all of our investments in the energy space is in renewable energy. And in fact, this year we did about 1,400 megawatts, but all of that is been in renewable energy. Now, as a system, ourselves, the World Bank, EBRD, and all of the other multilateral development banks, we all agree that we should increase the share of our financing for climate finance. We as a bank, we have tripled our investment in climate finance already. And we have committed under a new climate finance action plan to move that to 40% of all of our investments is going to be on climate finance between now and 2020. But that is just it. But let's also talk in terms of what is real. You know, for example, just last week before coming here, we approved a new financing for Morocco to build 800 megawatts of solar, building on an earlier work that we had co-financed for them. But that is going to be all on solar. You look at Cameroon, for example, we did a 400 megawatts for them in Nachigal, which is going to be on hydro. Well, we just did for Egypt 150 megawatts that's going to be also on solar, and the list goes on. The point I want to make is that the bank is really totally shifting a lot of its development financing on this issue. Now, I want to say, what does this really mean? We can talk about kilowatts, we can talk anything we want, but at the end of the day, it's what it impacts on the lives of people. For us, we have invested in this space, including 3,000 kilometers of just transmission lines just this year, and another 4,500 kilometers of distribution lines this year. All of that will impact on 4.1 million people getting access to electricity on a continent where 645 million people do not have access to electricity. So that's really huge for us. But most importantly, for the climate agreement we did here, is that 75 million tons of CO2 will be avoided as a result of this investment alone over the next 25 years. Let me close with 2 points, but I think are very important, just as my friend Remirio was saying. First is we need new funds to support off-grid energy systems. Now, for us as a bank, we put in place 2 such funds. One is Africa Renewable Energy Fund, which supports with $200 million direct private equity investments in renewable energy companies. Another is a $500 million facility that we have put in place, a Fund for African Energy Inclusion, which supports access to debt for companies that are doing small-scale investments in renewable energy. And finally is we as a bank working with the Agence Française de Développement are launching what we see as the biggest effort on renewable energy, which we're calling Desert to Power, which is to take the whole of the Sahel, where you have the Great Green Wall, and of course, if you don't have access to energy, that Great Green Wall is going to be nothing but a wall of charcoal and firewood in a burning desert. And so we've decided that we should build a solar zone that will go from Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, or Chad, or Senegal, Mauritania, all of that, that will allow us to provide access to energy and therefore reduce the impact on the Great Green Wall from deforestation. And we've started already with work with Remy and his team in Burkina Faso, and we're going to finish with it. But I just want to endorse in finishing what the Prime Minister of Fiji said and the chair of COP. He made the point about leveraging private sector. I really think that this is critical because we have pools of global pension funds and institutional investors that ought to be investing in this space. And that's why the African Development Bank with its partners are launching now what's called the Africa Investment Forum. The whole idea is to leverage global pension funds and sovereign wealth funds into investing in climate smart and other types of infrastructure that Africa desperately needs. And of course, we are very proud to be hosting the Africa Renewable Energy Initiative, which is the minister from France talked about, which I think it's a really exciting initiative.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, just to show us how mitigation can walk hand in hand with adaptation. Mr. Bamsey, Green Climate Fund Executive Director, the Green Climate Fund is the main financial mechanism, the main financial arm of the Paris Agreement. What's the specific role of the fund, which obviously no other institution can fulfill?
Well, I think the distinctiveness of the fund begins with the fact that it is a fund and not a bank. That means that we can accept a higher level of risk than can most banks, and that enables us to help banks, commercial banks, the multilateral banks, and private investors in particular. This is, I think, the key theme of this discussion, but private sector investors to explore new opportunities in new technologies, to prove new technologies, to prove new legal frameworks, new financial structures, and to make investments in new countries. We're also distinctive because of the range of instruments, financial instruments that we can use. We don't have any particular restrictions there, so that creates great flexibility in the sorts of financial structures that we can be part of. Like many other organisations, we are strongly driven by the countries we serve. We help them to take the climate action they've chosen to take. And apart from providing through delivery partners the expertise, the global expertise to help build their institutions, that's a part of our conventional support, we also have recently, in reaction to their demand from countries, we've prepared a new platform which will allow the countries in their various representation to connect directly with volunteers around the world who will be able to help them resolve their needs much more quickly than through any official structure. So this is a new development that we'll be launching soon to provide that direct assistance in a distinctive fashion. We're also distinctive because we're after transformation. We have a mandate for transformation, not for business as usual. We love it that there's a lot of renewables going in around the world now because it's commercially attractive. That's great, but our game is to find the transformative projects that really need additional support of the type we can provide to enable them to happen. We're providing aid and support in that valley of death that all entrepreneurs know so well. As everyone's said so far in this panel and earlier too, the key to success in reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement is catalysing private investment. That's where the trillions are, and we're doing everything we can to do that. We've recently concluded a request for proposals for mobilising private sector investment in climate action. That was something like 36 times oversubscribed. So if anybody doubts that there's interest, I think that confirms that there is certainly a great deal of interest in the private sector. We're not quite ready yet to announce the finalists in that process, but we have of over 300 proposals. We've counted down to about 30 that are really super. And we'll be announcing those as soon as we've have permission from those who have the great ideas. But there are some wonderful ideas there. I won't go through them now because there isn't sufficient time. But they will help when they're implemented. They will help put many more countries on track to the Paris target. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Bamsey. Voilà, il est temps maintenant d'entendre la perspective, le point de vue d'un habitué des négociations climatiques, the perspective of a seasoned climate negotiator. Mr. Xie Jianhua was China's lead negotiator during COP21. He will give us a Chinese perspective. Mr. Xie, you have the floor.
大家好，我今天呢想就中国的实践来介绍谈一下政府和公共资金的在应对气候变化方面的作用。这个中国在应对气候变化方面呢，我们是认为它是我们自己要做的事情，这是对中国的可持续发展呢有极大的帮助。我们主要是通过这么几个方面。第一呢，就是要建立一个长期有效、有力度的一个应对气候变化的目标和自主贡献的目标。所以中国已经在2009年和2015年分别公布了自己的应对气候变化的目标和自主贡献的目标。这个目标呢，为全社会的技术和资金的投向指明了方向。所以我们以2010年的价格计算，要实现中国到2030年的自主贡献的目标，需要投资41万亿人民币，也就是6万多亿美金，可以吸纳6900万人就业。所以这么一个目标呢，吸引了全社会的资金和技术投向绿色低碳。第二呢，政府要制定与之相配套的政策，比如说价格政策、税收政策、财政政策，来体现支持绿色低碳转型、限制高碳的发展。所以要制定相应的配套的政策。比如说2016年，也就是去年，中国用于节能提高能效政府的公共资金用了10亿美金，大体上直接带动了这个提高能效的项目资金100亿美金，而且呢，吸引了全社会和私营部门的资金，用于节能提高能效的是1000亿美金左右。所以就是通过政府的政策来引导资金。通过这样做法呢，取到了明显的成效。在确保我们10年经济稳步增长的同时，中国减少二氧化碳的排放41亿吨。另一方面呢，就是发展可再生能源。中国政府通过资金和政策的支持，引导社会来大力的发展可再生能源。2016年，中国用于可再生能源的投资是780亿美金，而且是连续5年用于可再生能源的投资在全世界居第1位。所以我们现在已经可再生能源的装机容量已经占了全球总装机容量的 26%到28%，最近这几年的增幅占了36%，所以可再生能源发展的还是非常快。另外呢，我们就是用于植树造林，这主要是各级政府来筹措资金，植树造林，增加森林碳汇。所以现在到目前为止呢，中国的森林碳汇已经增加了21亿立方米，所以超过了我们预期的目标。另外呢，我们公共资金主要用于适应能力的提高，这主要是预警预报能力和减灾防灾的能力在逐步的提高。第三方面就是通过政府要发挥市场的作用，中国很快将启动中国的碳市场。中国的碳市场启动之后，将是全球最大的碳交易市场。另外，我们在去年开始呢，搞了这个绿色金融，来动员银行、债券、保险企业、保险公司来支持绿色低碳的转型。第四，用于公共资金呢，开展南南合作。我们最近这几年已经对120多个发展中国家培训了1600多人，主要是提高应对气候变化的能力、融资的能力。已经和29个发展中国家签订了合作备忘录，已经开始赠送了一些物资设备，比如说太阳能的发电设备。清洁炉灶，以及气象卫星的接收系统，也发射了帮助一些国家发射微小卫星，主要提高适应能力。另外呢，我们最近这2年在开始实行要在全球在发展国家呢建10个低碳示范区，要再开展100个减缓和适应的项目，另外呢，要再培训1000名发展国家的官员和技术人员，提高融资的能力。所以这就是我们想通过这些政府的资金、公共资金、政府的政策来吸引社会的投资。另外最后呢，我再讲一点，今天是巴黎协定达成2周年。是一个非常有意义的日子。昨天是京都议定书达成20周年，所以我们要共同努力，来落实巴黎协定，来共同应对气候变化，来保护人类共同生存的家园。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much. Monsieur Génois, I think we can all recognize the contribution of China in scaling up public investment and improving enabling policies and also starting up this carbon market and promoting green finance. Thank you very much for your contribution. I guess this session is now coming to an end. Unfortunately, time is running. On l'a compris, la finance publique, en tout cas, ne pourra pas promouvoir à elle seule un développement durable et résilient pour tous. Les investissements nécessaires se chiffrent en milliards de milliards, mais elle peut produire un effet de levier sur la finance privée. It is now clear to all of us, public finance alone will not be able to promote sustainable and resilient development for all. The investment can be estimated in billions of dollars. That's the estimated investment needed, but public finance can provide leverage for private financing. We will discuss it in a minute, right after a video showing how solar power is lighting the way for Morocco's clean energy goals. Tout de suite, une courte vidéo sur les ambitions et les réussites du Maroc dans l'énergie solaire. Et à nouveau, un grand merci à Rémi Rioux. A warm welcome to Rémi Rioux, to C. Génois, Howard Bamsey, and Akinyumi Adesina for taking part in this second session. Thank you all.
Here we are in the solar field of the Noor Warzazat 3 project. It's a CSP, concentration solar power technology. We are in the middle of a solar field of 7,400 meters. As you can see, the size is quite huge. Each one of them is almost the size of a tennis court, and they all concentrate the solar heat at the top of the tower that you see there. This electricity is exported to the national grid. Concentrating solar is really the perfect choice for Morocco. As you can see here, we are in the middle of the desert. We have plenty of sun, almost 365 days a year. Really a huge potential.
One Planet Summit in Paris, how solar powers Morocco's clean energy goals. It's now time for the third session. Passons maintenant à la troisième et dernière session de ce panel. Comment accroître les investissements, s'appuyer sur la finance publique pour encourager les investisseurs privés. Boosting finance, leveraging public finance to encourage private investors. And I'm pleased to be joined here on stage for this third session by Kristalina Georgieva, the World Bank Chief Executive Officer. Kristalina Georgieva, directrice générale de la Banque mondiale. Merci d'être avec nous. Also with us is the president of the Moroccan Agency for Solar Energy, the MASEN, Mustafa Bakouri, le président de l'Agence marocaine pour l'énergie solaire. Et enfin, Varsha Purandare, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at SBI Capital Markets. Thank you for being with us as well. Ms. Georgieva, what would it take to accelerate the flow of private finance into climate investments? Comment faire pour accroître le flux de finances et d'investissements privés dans les investissements en faveur du climat et dans la lutte contre le réchauffement?
Permettez-moi de commencer par une petite phrase en français. J'aime l'accord de Paris. Et maintenant, en anglais. We actually heard from the previous panels that the most important change we are witnessing is that the climate discussion has moved from politics into business and finance. And this is where it belongs. So what is absolutely crucial if we are to see massive acceleration of financing? First, the national determined contributions have to turn into investment plans. Germany and Morocco, together with us at the World Bank, have been working exactly on that. You have your commitment, but what does it mean if we were to imagine projects that can be funded and funded with good return? Second, and this unfortunately is still not quite addressed, we do need the right policies. It is absolutely unacceptable for fossil fuel subsidies to still persist in so many countries. And when you move them away, it makes a dramatic difference. I'm just coming from Egypt. We signed with Egypt our largest ever loan, $1.15 billion. And it is about phasing out energy subsidies. The fact that the energy sector is doing that, the country is doing that, means that we are seeing the potential of $17 billion investments, including in renewables, and Egypt committing to 20% renewables by 2022. In addition to subsidies that are now in the order of 350 billion in developing countries, we ought to get a price on carbon that really bites. And we know what it has to be, between $40 and $60 per ton. This is what Stiglitz-Stern report is telling us. We absolutely have to think of all the standards that create the policy environment for climate-friendly investments. For example, building standards. We know that they can be a massive accelerator for energy efficiency, and they create business opportunities. Third, and this is actually something we at the bank are now hugely engaged on, small projects, big funds. How to build a bridge so the many little projects can be aggregated, and we actually would hear some of the solutions in this regard from others on that panel. How we can de-risk projects. There are instruments, they ought to be applied on scale to bring down what is on the way of investing. Last but absolutely not least, standardization. What makes solar massively cheaper is standardization. It is pulling huge opportunities for solar and moving them fast. We have a big scaling solar program exactly for that. Well, I wouldn't do my job fully if I don't say that we can do all this, but if the foundational infrastructure is not in place, if there are no roads, if there are no conditions for business to operate, basically if development is falling behind, climate action would be falling behind. And to the women in the audience, we also ought to make sure that there is more space for women who certainly would do a great job for our climate.
And I'm sure many people agree here in this room. Thank you very much, Ms. Dodjeva. I will now welcome here on stage the Minister of Environment and Climate Change for Canada, Ms. Catherine McKenna. Thank you for joining us.
Talking about more women to fight for our climate.
Nice, we're fighting. I'm running too to get to events. Thank you, sorry for being late.
So well, now we're the only man in this panel. Mr. Vakouri, as we saw in the short video before this session started, the concentrated solar power in Morocco is a good example of cutting-edge climate action technology with multiple investors, public and private. Can you walk us through the approach that led to the successful financing for the Noor project? And from your perspective as a developer in cutting-edge renewables, what lessons have you learned at Massen that you could share here with others? What would accelerate more of this sort of approach in the next few years?
Merci beaucoup. Ce vidéo il montre un projet qui est le fruit d'un partenariat, et je crois que c'est la première chose qu'il faut dire, un partenariat multiforme des acteurs du secteur public, des acteurs du secteur privé, des acteurs financiers, des investisseurs, des prêteurs et des institutions multilatérales. Et je crois que c'est la chance que nous avons eue à créer un climat, justement, où il y avait une motivation globale. Et ça, c'est parti d'abord d'une vision. Je pense que ça a été rappelé par Madame la Directrice Générale, et c'est important d'avoir une vision, et une vision sur la durée, puisque nous parlons de transition. Une transition ne se fait pas en 2 jours, elle se fait sur une certaine période. Notre objectif, évidemment, c'est de faire en sorte qu'elle soit la plus courte possible. Puisque la transition suppose, nous parlons ici du domaine de l'énergie, que nous arriverons un jour à une compétitivité par rapport au schéma traditionnel, en l'occurrence aux énergies fossiles. Moi, je dis aujourd'hui que cela est possible. Et on pourrait même l'accélérer si on arrive à amplifier les facteurs de succès. Alors, c'est quoi les facteurs de succès? La vision, et une vision à l'échelle d'un pays, d'une région. Et aujourd'hui, je pense que nous essayons d'avoir une vision à l'échelle de la planète, et je crois que c'est nécessaire. Cette vision doit être protégée. Elle doit être portée au plus haut niveau possible d'un pays. pour qu'elle soit déclinable en plan d'action et qu'elle soit déclinable en objectif, parce qu'une vision c'est bien, mais c'est encore mieux quand elle est accompagnée de projets et d'objectifs, ce qui a été fait au Maroc. Une vision en 2010 pour un objectif à horizon 2020 de porter la part des énergies renouvelables dans le mix électrique à 42%. D'ailleurs, à l'occasion du sommet de Paris, cet objectif a été porté à 52% horizon 2030. Comment cela a été possible? Nous sommes partis d'une conviction. Une transition a besoin de soutien, mais elle ne doit pas se faire en l'absence des investisseurs et des financiers et des développeurs du secteur privé. Donc, un point essentiel, nous avons cherché à immuniser la logique de marché et à la maintenir, parce que nous avons besoin de promouvoir l'innovation. Nous avons besoin d'amplifier aussi le marché pour les industriels. C'est ça qui fera que les coûts vont baisser. Et ceci, évidemment, grâce à un soutien des bailleurs de fonds publics que je voudrais mentionner ici, la Banque mondiale et la Banque africaine de développement comme institutions multilatérales qui ont apporté avec elles un levier grâce au Fonds de technologie propre, un levier supplémentaire. Et de l'autre côté, les bailleurs de fonds européens, la Banque européenne d'investissement, la KfW et l'Agence française de développement qui ont apporté avec elles la contribution de la Commission européenne qui a été décisive grâce au don de la facilité du voisinage. Donc l'intelligence qui a été la nôtre, c'est que nous avons pu utiliser le don, les fonds concessionnels pour permettre aux investisseurs, et évidemment aux garanties souveraines, pour permettre aux investisseurs de s'engager dans un climat similaire à ce qu'ils auraient fait par rapport à un projet d'infrastructure classique, où la logique de marché a été maintenue, analyse de risque, recherche de rentabilité. Et évidemment, nous avons essayé de donner le maximum de visibilité quant à le rachat d'électricité produite par les centrales. Vous avez vu aujourd'hui un exemple qui est la centrale de Ouarzazate. Il y a aussi le secteur éolien sur lequel nous avons fait la même approche et nous arrivons à des niveaux de coûts qui sont les meilleurs au monde aujourd'hui. Et nous pensons qu'il y a encore un potentiel. C'est les leçons que je voudrais rappeler. Je pense qu'il y a un potentiel encore à l'avenir. Pour atteindre cette compétitivité, il faut tout optimiser, de la conception des projets, de leur financement, et aussi multiplier les projets. Cette multiplication de projets passe par une étape à venir, c'est une coopération pour faire plus de projets, y compris en dehors du Maroc. Le renouvelable n'a pas de frontières. Donc c'est de coopérer là où il y a de la ressource renouvelable. Et deuxièmement, de le faire aussi en mettant à profit les investissements dans les grandes infrastructures. Et je veux parler ici des interconnexions. Nous sommes interconnectés avec l'Algérie à l'est et nous sommes interconnectés avec l'Europe à travers l'Espagne. Je pense que cette interconnexion peut avoir un rôle encore plus important pour optimiser les investissements faits, aussi bien sur la rive sud de la Méditerranée que sur la rive nord de la Méditerranée. Et à ce titre, il y a un grand projet stratégique, c'est de travailler à créer les conditions d'échange d'électricité verte entre les deux rives de la Méditerranée. C'est quelque chose sur laquelle aujourd'hui travaillent la France, l'Allemagne, l'Espagne, le Portugal et la Commission européenne avec le soutien de la Banque mondiale. Et je pense qu'il ouvrirait de nouvelles perspectives, qui est de faire de l'énergie renouvelable plus vite que ce que nous pensons, cette alternative crédible et compétitive aux énergies fossiles.
Merci beaucoup, Moustapha Bakouri. Varsha Purandari, SBI, your company, is a key financial partner in India's plan to deliver 40 gigawatts of energy from grid-connected rooftop solar systems across the country. Can you update us on how this program is progressing? And from a local financial institution with significant commitments in this field, what have you learned from experience to date? And what would help you to do more? What kinds of commitments are you making?
So first of all, thank you and a very good morning to all of you. State Bank of India is the largest bank in the country, holding around 23 to 25% of the total market. In June 2015, the Government of India set a very ambitious target of creating 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2022. And of this, 40 gigawatt was to come from rooftop solar. To achieve this ambitious target of getting into rooftop solar, so today, as of September 2017, the country has 1.36 capacity as of September 2017. And to achieve this 40 gigawatts of rooftop solar energy, we would require to double our capacity every year from today till 2022 to ensure that we reach the 40 gigawatt. And one of the major drivers of this growth will obviously be funding, and cheap funding, dedicated funding, and easily available funding. So there are three things that we need. We need a dedicated fund, we need a cheap funds, and we need easy accessibility. So towards this, State Bank of India partnered with World Bank to set up $648 million fund, line of credit, exclusively for rooftop solar projects in the country. The line enabled State Bank of India to do two things. One, they enabled State Bank of India to give a longer duration loans for 15 to 18 years. And two, it enabled to give at a lower or a cheaper rate of interest by about 2 or 2.5%, making smaller projects also very viable. So these were the two things that helped the State Bank of India from the credit line. Many of the startups with limited capital were able to leverage this equity and were able to borrow from the bank with a debt equity of 70-30, that is 70% of it would come as debt, and were able to put up their projects which became viable. During the first 18 months of this program, which was initiated in June 18, SBI sanctioned 41 new projects to commission about 514 megawatts of rooftop solar projects, around 310 million, that is almost 50% of the line has already been utilized. These projects range from 0.01 megawatt to 150 megawatts. So this is what has helped us, the line of credit, to increase the rooftop solar presence. As pioneers of viable debt financing products for rooftop projects in India, many of the learning come from the challenges faced by the promoters and financiers at the implementation stage. So, for example, the viability which is worked out when we finance is based on the estimates and the projections. We need to see how, going forward, these estimates and projections actually pan out and what tweaking needs to be done. The other thing that we need to do is, industry matures, we need more technology-driven platforms to enable better risk assessment, particularly for the off-takers credit and for the resource assessment. So this is very important. We are starting to see accelerated investments from commercial and institutional and industrial players after seeing that lower cost is possible of electricity is possible from rooftop solar projects. However, the next set of growth needs to come from SMEs, that is small and medium enterprises, and from the retail consumers. And to do this is a big challenge. We need new models, we need new structures to mitigate increased risk for financing them, and in the form of contingent support, maybe via first loss guarantees or by way of payment security mechanisms. This is what our learning is. And what SBI is doing, SBI as the largest bank has an absolute commitment to this program. They have given a commitment to the Government of India to finance bankable renewable energy projects to the extent of $10 billion in the next 5 years, or 15 gigawatts of renewable energy. Towards this, SBI also, along with SBI CAPS, is arranging line of credits at concessional rates from multilateral agencies like World Bank, EIB, and the others. We have recently 2 lines of credit. We have arranged 2 lines of credit. One is of USD 214 million from EIB for setting up ground-mounted solar projects. We've also gotten Euro 150 million facility from KfW for supporting solar projects in India. Another thing that SBI CAPS is doing is working with the municipalities in India for raising municipal bonds for infrastructure projects which are climate smart. So these are the things that we are doing to help green energy in India.
Thank you very much, Ms. Purandare. Minister McKenna, Canada has shown significant climate leadership in the recent years, both domestically and internationally. What do you see as the key opportunities and priorities to accelerate climate action, and how is Canada working with development finance institutions to scale up climate action?
Great, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Je suis vraiment heureuse d'être ici. Ça fait 2 ans qu'on est ici pour négocier l'accord de Paris. It's interesting now being 2 years later, because when we were here to negotiate the Paris Agreement, the focus was on countries. And that was extremely important. 195 countries coming together sends a strong signal to the market. But the reality is we don't need billions, we need trillions. Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, Canada's greatest export, we're going to call back that loan soon, I think. He has talked about clean growth as a $30 trillion opportunity, but we need to mainstream it. And the way we're going to do that, there's a variety of tools. Putting a price on pollution. If your country hasn't put a price on pollution, or you are a business that doesn't have a price on pollution, you better do it soon, because you need to future-proof your businesses or your economies. We need climate disclosure. But the third thing we really need are new models of financing. And it's great to see countries like India, other countries around the world who are really thinking about how do we do this. And I'll give you 3 examples. So in Canada, alors un exemple, c'est avec la Jamaïque. Alors le Canada a investi 10 millions de dollars par l'entremise d'un programme de financement de changement climatique de la Société financière internationale Canada. C'est pour soutenir le premier projet éolien dirigé par le secteur privé en Jamaïque. Mais avec notre investissement de 10 millions de dollars, nous avons pu mobiliser 27 millions de dollars d'investissement privé. So this is the importance. You need to take, government has a role to play. We can be a guarantor, we can put in grant money, but that's not the end of the story, and it's actually a hugely missed opportunity if we only think about governments as putting in money, because that money is never going to be sufficient. So in the case of Jamaica, we were able to leverage 2.7 ratio. That's pretty good. I think we can do a lot better, but that's one example. Second example is our coal phase out. So we have a Powering Past Coal coalition that we've announced with the United Kingdom. And I think it was based on the experience in both the UK and in Canada, where we've announced that we're phasing out coal. And as I like to say, hard things are hard, but we can just be smart about it. So in Canada, we do have coal, and so we have provinces that are on coal, and they need solutions. And solutions include transmission lines between provinces that have coal and that don't, but those are hugely expensive. And so governments have never been able to do this because they never had enough money or enough imagination. Our government has announced we have a new infrastructure bank where we're going to leverage our money with private sector money to do something that's just smart. It's to use clean power between provinces to support provinces getting off coal. We are also doing something else, a just transition. We need to be thinking about communities and workers, so that's part of it. So this is what we've brought to this Powering Past Coal Coalition, and we now have 50 partners that have joined on. So we have countries that have joined on. Anyone here joined? Join the party. So we have 50 partners, so we have countries that have joined on. We have businesses that have joined on, committed to 100% renewables. We have US states that have joined on. We have provinces. And the whole point is we know we need to get off coal, and this is how we accelerate ambition under the Paris Agreement. And so by looking at new financing models, we can support countries that want to make the right decision to get off coal. And why do you want to get off coal? Because coal is extraordinarily polluting when you look at your electricity mix. It's far more polluting than natural gas. I mean, obviously we want to move to completely clean power, but it's also terrible for health. Like we have almost 1 million people dying every year because of pollution from coal, and the good news, it's a lot cheaper. But the problem is it is not always the cheapest option yet. So it's just a financing thing. So government can put in money and then leverage that money with it could be with philanthropists, but you also need the private sector. And so that's why we're announcing today a partnership with the World Bank to help support developing countries to move from coal to clean power. The last example I'll give you is the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. So who knows about this? See, not enough people know about it. This is a great story. Most important, so thank you to everyone who played a role in getting an agreement. This is 0.5 degree of global warming. It's by phasing out HFCs that are in refrigerants, air conditioners. But the reason we were able to get an agreement was because we were supporting developing countries, but government wasn't fast enough. So we went to the private sector to get money, and that enabled us to get an agreement that is the most significant thing we can do post-Paris, which is stop warming by 0.5 degree by 2100. So we need to be just smarter about things, and we have to stop the old school way of thinking where governments are going to take action. So first of all, governments are slow, we never have enough money, we have other pressures, and we're just missing the plot if we don't leverage the private sector that is out there and turn the billions into trillions and actually take the action that we need to move to a cleaner future. But I'm hugely optimistic, and I think that this summit, you're actually seeing the real private sector actors. We're mainstreaming climate finance, so it's not just something in this little box is green, it's just where the future is, because we're going into the clean growth century, and also, I have 3 kids. We have no choice but to accelerate action, and so this is our real opportunity to do it.
Thank you very much, Minister McKenna. And I think we'll hear again about the Powering Past Coal Alliance this afternoon with
everyone can still join. You can still sign up. Come talk to me.
And British Prime Minister Theresa May will be part of the sessions this afternoon with the World Bank as well. Let me now thank you, Kristalina Georgieva, for chairing this third session. Thank you also to Mustafa Bakouri for taking part, as well as Varsha Purandare and Minister Catherine McKenna. Thank you all. It's now the end of this first panel of the morning. Of course, there will be other panels. I invite you to now join the auditorium for another panel, and of course we'll see you this afternoon as well with the heads of states and governments coming, and also there will be President Macron, UN Secretary General Guterres, and also World Bank President Jim Yong Kim all together. Thank you, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.